Hello! Welcome! Today we're going to be using some Dota 2 gameplay footage, but I am going to be talking about the subject of H1Z1, the new upcoming Sony release. Now you may be asking yourself, why the hell would I use Dota 2 gameplay footage? Couple of reasons. First reason is the only footage that we have is on Twitch, and you see a couple developers basically playing the game. I'm not going to rip that from Twitch. I'm not going to rip it from other YouTube videos. I don't have the consent to basically use it, but more importantly, I don't want to use it. And so the second part of it is guided gameplay. Now, I don't think guided gameplay is an accurate interpretation of a game. Why would guided gameplay be an accurate interpretation of a game? It's biased interpretation as per guided by the developer. So what the hell does that mean? Basically, it means I open up a restaurant, and then I make myself a cheeseburger, and then I give you a review of my restaurant and my cheeseburger. How would that be a fair assessment of the restaurant's food? So with that being said, we're not gonna have any H1Z1 gameplay. If you want to see some H1Z1 gameplay, I'll put a link in the description for that. You're not gonna see it here. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to speculate, I'm going to give you my educated assessment of what I think is going to happen with the upcoming Sony Online Entertainment release, and just talk about some things in the genre that maybe haven't been discussed when regarding this game. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about its potential, let's talk about my thoughts, and the future of the genre. So also, just to let you guys know, on Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, I will be going down to Sony's headquarters in San Diego, and I will be able to get my own footage and have my own interpretation, hopefully. I don't know the details yet. If it is another guided gameplay session, then I will do my best to be as critical and subjective or objective as I can. So hopefully, hopefully that'll happen. So first and foremost, let's talk about DayZ, because this whole genre never existed before DayZ. DayZ has forever changed the gaming industry, and these are good things. I'm not saying this in a bad way. Don't take it, don't take it the wrong way. This is great, okay? So if you're not familiar, DayZ was Arma 2 mod. A lot of people, it's gaining more and more popularity. It became so popular that he was actually able to release a standalone version of the game. And he basically showed that it's possible to revitalize a 3-year-old game by innovating it through mods, thus bumping the sale of everything, the DLC, the game itself, and even creating so much success that you're able to make a standalone version of that game. These are all good things, and this is, this was really unique, and this was extremely impressive. It was an impressive feat of innovation by taking a mod and making it more successful than the game that it is modded off of. Now, I think it's safe to say that DayZ mod sold more copies of Arma 2, Combined Operations, the DLC, and I would even, personally, I'd go far as to say that Arma 3's release before standalone created a wider audience in the market that wasn't there before DayZ existed. And like I said, these are all good things. This is it was awesome. If you played the genre, if you followed the channel, you got my thoughts throughout that whole development, throughout that whole release, and it's just cool to see this whole genre be created through this one mod. So now we have this new genre, and we've had a few releases. The first being completely, just incredibly horrible. It was War Z, and if you guys don't remember, now I think it's called Infestation Survivor Stories. War Z was a game that basically came out right after DayZ started gaining popularity. Technically, it can be counted as the first game in the genre, the first standalone game in the genre. It was painfully obvious that everything in the game was a copy of the mod of DayZ, and they rushed it as quick as possible to try and capitalize on the DayZ mod success. And it bombed. It was a bad game. It had bad reviews, and it was bad, basically. And so after that, fans of the genre, like myself, we just became skeptical. It wasn't that War Z was bad. It was just the whole marketing the way they marketed the game to say that they were in development before DayZ, and it just created a lot of distrust in the genre's community. People who are fans of the genre, myself, I even falsely started accusing DayZ of shortcomings of like WarZ because of the distrust that WarZ created and my own skepticism. So it's hard to gauge these releases because we have, it's basically like, you're in high school and the first girl you date breaks your heart, cheats on you, sleeps with your best friend, steals your bank account, crashes your car, stabs you in the back, and gives you herpes. That's basically what WarZ did for the genre. So now everyone's skeptical about what comes out. We've had a few releases. We've had Nether. We've had... there's been survival-like games mimicking the genre. But this is going to be the first large, major release in the genre created by a publishing company and development company that is substantial. Sony, this is a substantial company. They are not some pop-up company like WarZ. They are legit. They have, PlanetSide 2. They've been in the industry a very long time. And so we can kind of put down our guard when it comes to that distrust, I think. I think it's safe to say that, this isn't going to be a WarZ fiasco, and they are going to make a good game. This is just my opinion, of course. And I mean, look at Sony's track record. They have a lot of experience in the free-to-play market. PlanetSide 2 was amazing. It is amazing. And it is, in my opinion, one of the best free-to-play releases. I hate free-to-play games. Free-to-play games, have ruined a lot of aspects of the gaming industry. They have created microtransactions, which creates a level of unfairness for people who have money and don't give a shit, and they can just throw money at their computer and win. It also creates a level of unfairness where the developers maybe create items in the game that are overpowered to players that maybe don't buy anything. And so the players farm items that are free versus items that are paid, and it's just completely unfair. PlanetSide 2 has been the amazing exception. I've only had good things to say about PlanetSide 2. PlanetSide 2 made it incredibly easy to get in-game purchases. I mean, you just played the game and you could get stuff almost every day from what I remember. I don't know if it's changed, but it was so easy to get all the items that you wanted in the store via certifications. And I loved that. It was fair. It didn't feel like, and I had no reason to bitch when I got killed. I couldn't say, oh, well, that guy, he paid to win, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't say that because everything was easy to get. So, and I think that's great. I think that Sony did an amazing job at PlanetSide 2 and creating a free-to-play first-person shooter that was fair. And you could buy stuff. No, it did not change. It was not game-breaking. And no, it was not unfair. So that was really cool, and I like that. And so Sony has that experience of releasing a free-to-play game that is fair. And so also, let's look at the ability to, Sony's ability to sit back in the genre. And, it's like I can compare it to a boxer, basically. It's like a boxer who sits back and he looks at two amateur boxers go at it. And amateur boxers being like Nether, WarZ, all the other survival type games that came out. And they sit back and they say, okay, we're going to train, and we're going to train on the mistakes of Nether. We're going to train on the mistakes of WarZ. And so Sony has that ability. They have the hindsight to look at the things that were awesome about the game and the things that made it a better game and the things that made it a good game and a fun game and a game that people replayed. And they can take those things and they can put it in their game, and they can look at the things that made it not fun and not fair and not cool, and things that were mistakes or considered, errors of the game, and not use it. And just without going into too much, detail and just getting into specific features of the game, core concepts of the genre that I think make the game good are things like a very discouraging penalization for death, permadeath. Something that stings when you die. Something that makes you ragey and extremely upset because the character that you just got killed on may have been, alive for days, literally days. And, you lose all your items, you spawn very far away from where you died. and you're basically shit out of luck. And that is, I think, what makes games in this genre, you know, very immersive, because you have an emotional connection to your character. You have an actual emotional connection to the character because you have spent time on him. You have gotten little things that you've wanted, specific hats, specific parts of, you know, your gear that you've searched for, you know, and killed other players for, or whatever. And in you know, in the snap of a fingers or a crack of a, you know, AK-47, it's all over. And that's one thing that I think that makes the genre good. Another thing is player versus player interaction. Absolutely. You know, some of the funnest times I've had in, you know, DayZ is just the ridiculous interactions that you have with other players. Whether you're, you know, stealing their blood, whether you're holding them up to steal the car tires off their car, you know, the depth of the game of having body language and being able to gauge a player's intentions by the way they move, you know, the different animations that are in there, the way they move around holding their guns, stuff like that. This really adds depth to the genre. And I'm not talking about specific games, but just this genre, the survival MMO, you know, not necessarily zombies, but just the survival genre. You know, and definitely in-game voice chat, and the ability to talk to other players, the ability to, you know, negotiate when you're in a building and say, okay, I'm coming out, don't shoot, or if you come out, we won't kill you. You know, stuff like that. It creates a whole layer in the game that we've never seen before. You can actually, you know, and people role play it. I've seen people riding around on bicycles, singing, you know, Queen's I Like to Ride My Bicycle. I've seen players driving around, you know, taking people hostage and kidnapping them and taking their clothes and all sorts of just ridiculousness that comes from in-game voice chat. You know, the internet is great at being a troll, and you give a bunch of teenage boys and, you know, young men the ability to be anonymous and use their voice and do things, and only good things happen from that. So, and this is, you know, these are just things that make the genre great. Crafting, building, these, you know, this adds another layer of depth to the character's existence. You're not just a guy running around with a bunch of awesome gear on him. You're a guy who has a bunch of awesome gear on him with a place to lay his head. You have a home. You have, you know, a safe. You have a place you can go if you die. You say, I may have just lost everything on my person, but if I go back to my safe, at least I have a gun. At least I have this chainsaw or whatever else, you know, whatever items, you know. I'm not, like I said, I don't want to talk too much about specific games, just the genre itself, you know, games like Rust, stuff like that. Vehicles, and not necessarily the concept of the concept of specifically vehicles, but the concept of having an extreme disproportion of the haves and the have-nots, where you have people who can run and they take, you know, 2 hours to get to a location, and you have people who can hop in a helicopter and fly there in 2 minutes. And so that concept of having these motorized vehicles, more ownership, more, you know, just basically more ownership of items, where you create a character that has, you know, you have an emotional connection to your character because of all the ownership. Now, little features like immersive daylight, where, you know, the server timeline is locked to regional timeline. So if I hop on a server and it's nighttime where I live, it's nighttime in game. Stuff like that is, you know, that adds to it. That adds more depth to it, because you're creating a more immersive experience where you're subconsciously playing a game at night while it's nighttime. So this is, you know, it's not a direct connection, but it's, I believe it's definitely subconsciously done. And I think features like that should definitely be added to the genre. You know, and just functions in the game, controls in the game that require you to think about your character's movement. You know, Rust is fun. Rust is a blast. However, the shortcomings of Rust, in my opinion, are the character. I don't like how, you know, you're basically on a swivel. It's like you're on roller skates. It's got a Call of Duty arena-style shooter feel to it. It doesn't feel like you're moving. It doesn't feel like your character's actually has some weight to them, and there is some difficulty to aiming your rifle. And so those are things, you know, those are things that all add to the genre, and things like, you know, things in the environment, car wrecks, dilapidated buildings, stuff like that that makes you believe the map is void of civilization, of, you know, a civilized functional society. These are more subconscious things that your brain, you know, it adds to the genre. These are all good things in my opinion. Without splitting hairs, I think these are things that I hope H1Z1 is definitely looking at for their release. Are they going to have all these features? I don't know. It's, you know, the information that we have so far is on the Reddit, and they've done a stream, and there's a lot of speculation on YouTube videos and stuff like that, just like this one. That's all this is a speculative video. I don't really know what's going to happen with the game. Is it going to be good? I hope so. I have a lot of high hopes. I'm going to say that I'm a little bit biased. I am a fan of Sony. I like their stuff. So my opinion is already going to be swayed towards their favor. And, and I think that because of their position of being able to see all the releases of all their predecessors, being able to see what works, what doesn't work, I think H1Z1 has a crazy amount of potential, especially with the amount of 1,000 people servers on. I mean, that's just incredible. They are going to make an epic MMO, in my opinion. And, I just say this because of all the factors of being able to see what works, being able to create a good free-to-play model that is fair, that the community likes, that the community approves. And yes, it has microtransaction, but no, it keeps it fair and it keeps it equal. And, also giving a true MMO, not a 64-player slot server, not a 100-slot server, but a 1,000-player server, where you go into a city and it is filled, on the server is going to have 1,000 people. That's incredible. We have not seen anything like this. This is a true MMO. And then all of this with the manpower that Sony has. You look at Rust, another great release, and it was a few people. Face Punch was a few people. DayZ, Arma 2, Bohemia, that's a few people. I mean, we're not looking at, it's not like a super small development team, but from what I understand, DayZ standalone only had 10 to 15 people working on it. Whereas you look at this upcoming H1Z1, and I'm pretty sure Sony's going to have more than 10 to 15 people. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 10 times that amount. And so that having that manpower and having just the capability of being able to develop a game on that scale is going to make this an epic release. All of this, though, I want you guys to keep this in mind. All of this is built on the pinnacle of hope. We don't know. Like I said, the only information we've seen has been a guided gameplay, which, as we know, guided we can't trust. I'm sorry, Sony. I like your stuff. I don't trust you. You're trying to sell your own game. I don't blame you for giving guided gameplay. I would do the same thing if I was releasing a game. Would you want to risk having people negatively gauge your game or negatively judge your game before you even get a chance to let people, see what it's about or give your, explain your game? It's like an artist, basically. Here's another comparison. An artist paints a painting, and when they have the show, the artist is there talking about their art. They are there selling their art. They're saying this is this peach I painted, and this peach is amazing because it reminds me of when I was a kid and I used to eat peach pie or whatever. They don't release it to the public and let the critics judge it without them giving themselves a chance to explain themselves. So I don't blame Sony for doing what they're doing. They're just keeping the opinion on lock for now until the public gets a chance to accurately assess it. And so, like I said, it's all in the pinnacle of hope. Once again, the subreddit, another controlled environment. That's all the information we're able to see is on the subreddit, which, as most of you know, I am not a fan of Reddit. I think it proves why democracy fails, because people are crazy and you need a set of rules, you need a code, you need a guideline that is laid out in written stone that you can create from a democracy, but democracy itself fails. You get hive-minded on Reddit, where there's generally a 50-50 opinion on most things. So I mean, core things like, is cannibalism wrong, stuff like that, of course, no, we know that, but generally there's an opinion of 50-50. Reddit is not an accurate assessment of that opinion, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And so I think that it's not fair that the subreddit is all we're seeing, because once again, another controlled environment. all of this, you know, withstanding, I still think it's going to be a great game. Once again, this is all on the pinnacle of hope. I think it has the potential to be extremely successful, and just because the free-to-play model. I hate the free-to-play model, but I love it because it's a love-hate relationship, because now everybody can play it. You don't need to have money. You don't need to pay $60. You don't need to pay $10. You don't need to pay $1. You can log onto Steam and download this game. It's going to be free-to-play, which is fucking awesome. And I think that gives it so much potential alone. And, you know, and I think that especially because the tides of popularity are constantly shifting. You know, business minds in the gaming industry are trying to speculate on what tides of popularity are shifting constantly, because they want to create games that they know are going to sell the most amount of copies for. And personally, in my opinion, I think the tides are definitely shifting towards the survival genre, and they have been for a while. Not necessarily zombies, but the survival genre. You know, worrying about hunger, worrying about thirst, and you can see by games like Don't Starve's popularity and so forth that this is true. Also, you know, I think that if Bethesda, one of my biggest disappointments with Elder Scrolls is the genre. You know, I love Skyrim, I love Fallout. I firmly believe that if Bethesda would have released a Fallout MMO before ESO, it would be far more successful, just because the tides of popularity are shifting, and everybody has played a magic, you know, the genre. It's like watching the same movie. You can only watch, you know, so much Arnold Schwarzenegger action movies before, you know, maybe just you want to throw in like a musical or something. Well, maybe not a musical, that's kind of an extreme, but you know what I mean. You have to switch genres. People don't like to stick to the same genre. They like variety. They get bored. It's a natural human thing to get bored. That's why we have so many genres. And I feel like that, you know, my biggest disappointment is that if Fallout MMO would have just killed it. If a Fallout MMO came out before ESO, it would have just killed it. You know, forget the zombies. You get your own vault clan. You get to, you know, travel the wastelands, and it would just absolutely kill it. And I think this game's going to kill it, because right now the tide is definitely in the survival genre. A lot of the market has come from the MMORPG, and they're towards that survival genre. And it does have an RPG aspect. So once again, this is all speculation. This is all opinion. Take everything I say with a grain of salt, and take everything I say with your own judgments, and do your own research. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Don't believe everything you hear on the internet. Make sure you look, you ask questions. In fact, you know, I'm going Tuesday to go check this game out. If you have any questions, I'm going to put a link in the description to a thread on my forums for questions you guys would like to see. I have a pre-written list of questions that I'm going to ask that I'm just curious about, but if you guys have any questions that I may have missed, make sure to check the link in the description for that, and I will do my best to ask the developers when I go there. Also, post in the comments, what do you guys think? I want to hear what you guys think of H1Z1. I know there's been a lot of speculation on YouTube about, you know, is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? This video being one of those videos. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? And so I'd like to hear the community. What do you guys think? Do you think this looks like a good game? Do you think it sounds like a good game? Once again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put a link in the description for the H1Z1 gameplay footage. And just make sure to, you know, if you liked the video, if you thought this was presented well, make sure to drop a like or share. Thanks for watching. As always, boys, girls, and creatures of the night, I love you all.